Redditors who work in adult stores, what is the most NSFW thing you have found or a customer has done? Mine is NSFW in two ways. Some guy tried to return a used vibrator. We did not take returns because, well, come on, do you want a refurbished vibrator? Ugh. Anyway, this guy started screaming at my manager over a $30 vibrator that his wife broke with her vagina, and he wanted another one without paying for it. When my manager explained to him we don't take returns and would need him to pay for the new one, he threw the used vibrator at my manager's head, which she managed to duck, grabbed the new vibe and booked it to the door. My manager did the dumb thing and followed the guy out of the store, while angrily yelling to the police on the phone. She planned to get the guy's license plate number to report him. He ended up trapping her in the front lobby by blocking the door with his foot, while she is still reporting his description to the police. He then proceeded to grab her by the throat, throw her against the glass, grab and twist her breasts, then run out of the store, with his new vibrator. To where his wife was in the car, watching the whole thing, and screaming for him to get in so they could go. One afternoon I saw a fistfight in an adult cinema. My local porno store had a small cinema out the back. I was a little drunk, so I paid my $5 and in I went. The place reeked of cum and disinfectant. I walked in right as the fight was breaking out. A couple in their mid-40s had decided to fuck in the cinema. When all the dudes in the cinema gathered round to watch, the husband didn't like the close attention. He started shoving the nearest guy and they threw a few punches at each other as his wife yelled at them. The guy behind the counter came in and calmed things down. The couple left, and one of the peep show girls told the husband off, "If you fuck in an adult cinema, of course people are gonna want to watch." The funniest part though, one guy in the cinema didn't stop beating off throughout the whole ordeal. Lol. People jerking off in the rentals room, people returning tapes smeared with lube and God knows what else, but my all-time favorite was when I ordered Chinese food delivered there, and this sweet little old Asian man delivered it. He had never been in a porn shop before, and was like a kid in a candy store. He was asking what everything was and how it worked, and there was lots of laughter till we got to the dildo wall and he suddenly got furious. He pointed at this super small realistic dildo, think size of a finger, and he starts yelling angrily, "What is this?" I immediately took it to a racial place in my mind, thinking he thought it was an Asian dildo, but then he yells, "You sell dildos for children?" I laughed and explained that men and women just have many strange tastes for dildos, but that we only sell to adults. Awkward. I remember a buddy of mine who went into a sex shop with a pair of calipers on hand to measure out the diameter of dildos. Mainly because he planned on using them as projectiles for his grenade launcher during airsoft games. Best part is he told the lady at the counter his intentions for the dildo. She said that launching them will hurt like hell. He didn't believe it because he thought that can be changed by adjusting the CO2 pressure of the grenade shell. Let's just say after some extensive testing, that is shooting each other with it at different psi, we found out that getting hit by a dildo will knock you off your feet and break a windshield of a car. Just after I got out of the army, in the late 70s, I worked at an adult theater running the projector, doing the lighting for the strippers, cleaning, and fixing shit. For the record, the sound system was the bomb, for the day, and there was nothing as grand as cranking up Dark Side of the Moon, after hours, and tripping out while cleaning the place up. Anyway, aside from your usual run-of-the-mill creeps and weirdos, like the guy who would leave a used, green, condom in the middle of the aisle every Tuesday night, or the stripper who would fill her hoa with whipped cream and ping-pong balls to launch into the front rows, it was not uncommon to have couples come in and get frisky. Almost always in the back rows. From the projection booth, you could see them clear as day. Most probably had no idea, others were likely hoping to get caught. So, they hire this new kid and I'm teaching him how the projection booth works. It doesn't take him long to realize he can see what's going on in the theater, and he takes to spending most of his free time sitting in the window where the spotlights are for the strippers. His third or fourth night there, a couple sits right under the window, gets naked and starts fucking. The kid spots them and takes his seat, then starts leaning out to get a better look. Fell right out the window. Funniest shit I ever saw. A little late to the game, but my wife used to work at an adult store when we first started dating. She has lots of stories, both creepy and funny, but this is my favorite. The store she worked at was open until the bars closed, so she often dealt with drunks leaving the nearby bars. One night a middle-aged guy walked in and was looking to rent the DVD. After asking my wife a few questions and putting on a super creepy vibe, he picks a couple porns to rent. While she is ringing him up, the guy starts inspecting some skimpy lingerie on display near the cash register. After a few minutes he says, "You would look pretty good in something like this. Would you ever wear it?" Now, my wife has a really sharp wit and doesn't put up with much shit. So without missing a beat she replies, "Sir, if I wore that my dick would hang out." The guy's eyes got real wide and he just turns around and walks out, leaving his money and DVDs behind. It was about 4:30 a.m, I was tired. I tilted my chair back and rested my head on the shelves. I would just rest my eyes a bit. No, of course I wouldn't sleep. There was no one in the store. Just when I started to drift off to dreamland, I hear a loud bang. My mind is trying to think of what could have made that huge noise. I open my eyes to see every dildo in the store flying in the air. So, a pickup truck had slid through the intersection and slammed into the outside wall of the shop, the wall on which racks and racks of dildos. I have never been more befuddled than in the first seconds after I opened my eyes. That's my favorite story. There are far many more gross ones. I have a friend that works at a sex shop. One of the chillest people I know. He's told us lots of stories. He frequently takes pictures of the weird stock they get in and shows it to us, as well as the dumb names of the movies they get in. The story that stood out the most was when he told us a couple came in. It was a guy at least 6'5", and a little girl in a sundress of age, just small, no bigger than 4'10". They apparently asked for the largest dildo in stock, bought it and left. It was like 14 or 16 inches. Totally absurd. Not me, but someone I knew who worked at a sex shop. One day a lady came in and asked to see the Benoit balls, basically metal balls that you put up the vagina. They were in a counter and so he put them on top of the counter. She throws her leg up and puts one right in. Guess you could say she snatched them. I had a customer pass out from some drugs on the shift before mine, and my coworkers forgot he was in the arcade. Later that night, while I was working and watching slasher movies to pass the time, I heard a noise in the arcade. No one has come in for 3 hours at this point. I'm freaked, but I have to go check it out. I go into the arcade with my flashlight, and yell, "Anybody back here?" Out jumps this crackhead butt naked and screaming. He runs past me through the fire exit and into the night. I later found a crack pipe, a wallet with some cash, and his clothes. Scared me like no other time in my life. Okay, story time. Had a friend that worked at a sex store in Canada. She told me this amazing story of a break-in they had. So they show up to work one morning and the glass door in the back has been smashed by a cinder block, so no alarms have gone off. The two that open the store go to the security camera footage to see what happened. They start watching this skinny black kid, no more than 18 or so, crawling through the hole he made in the glass. He walks around the store looking like he's looking for something and doesn't even head to the register. The guy goes straight to the fucking super expensive real doll section. Grabs a bottle of lube off the shelf and proceeds to fuck 3 to 4 different toys, including a $600 perfect pussy and a $2,000 real doll. Guy does his thing, finishes up and just leaves through the hole he made. Story goes the cops recognized him and picked him up a couple days later. Because of the damage to the door and all the expensive shit he literally fucked up, they charged him with damages over $5,000 lol. I worked part-time in this video rental store that had porno flicks. The store was set up in a way that the children's movies were at the front, where you can see them from the street. Kids could even come in. The porno stuff was around a corner, 180 degrees through a door. And you had to get past me first. Well, this also means that I do not have total view of the porno racks at all times, not even when I'm at the counter, which you have to pass to get there. There was a guy who would come in and jizz on the covers of DVDs, then put them back in the shelf. But not up front, so you could see there was jizz on it. He always put them in second, or 3 deep, so you could only discover the jizz trap by sorting through them. Fucker was eventually caught. God, I so wish I could have been witness to that, but it wasn't my shift. Most glitchy thing about it, he wore a brown trench coat most of the time he came in. Closed up the front, like an exhibitionist from the movies. Oh, and the girl working there, 18 and still in school, was shown a dick pic on the phone. The guy asked her if they had any porno with dicks like this. It was his own dick, sticking out of his own pants, with his shoes and his shirt, all of which he was currently wearing, on the photo. A friend in college worked at an adult bookstore, late 90s, early noughties. They had a rash of people renting XXX VHS tapes, recording over them with Back to the Future, and returning them. Lots of pissed off renters coming back with tapes adulterated to be unadulterated. I worked in a crummy video store that was probably a tax dodge. Our main moneymakers was the children's section and then, a distant second, the adult DVDs. This was mainly supported by one old guy who would shuffle in and rent the same DVD week after week, year after year. At least 200 or 300 rentals. The system didn't keep logs as far back as this guy had been renting the exact same porn DVD. He could have easily bought it 100 times over, or stolen it long ago. We wouldn't have cared at all, and finally the store is closing. The managers like your last paychecks are 99.9% gonna bounce. So steal whatever you want now. Us, being nice, finally offer this gentleman the DVD to take home and keep. He refuses over and over till finally the manager writes him a letter rewarding him a free permanent rental due to his patronage or some such. He cried. One of my Oregon students worked in an adult store during college. He was also a part-time church organist, and always concerned that someone from church might spot him there. He told me that he decided to quit because a customer brought back a used dildo and wanted to exchange it for something more satisfying. The customer made a scene when told that he couldn't exchange used merchandise. A friend of mine used to work in one. One of his co-workers used to ride their bike to work and would often store it in one of the booths. They would clean these booths multiple times a day with gloves and bleach for obvious reasons. Well, my friend went to clean the booth where the bike was stored and proceeded to grab the bike handle while kneeling down to clean the floor, and his hand slipped off the handle. Some dude, who had just been there, lubed up the bike handle and was using it for some butt pleasure. Found during a stock take a double-ended penis pump, which was pretty weird. Had a customer come in, I asked if I could help and he said no thanks, I don't speak any English. I'm just here to get something for my brother. He grabbed the most expensive replica pussy there was and paid cash, about $700. Had 2 Irish guys come in first thing in the morning. They'd been out all night and my shop was the first place to open. They looked around for a bit, then one of them said, "Hey, you got somewhere here we can rack up some lines of speed?" I was about to point them to the toilet when his mate punched him in the arm and said, "You don't be so fucking rude. You ask the man if he'd like to have some speed with us." Closed up the shop, turned the security camera on off, and they racked up some lines on the counter. I have to use the classic not me, but an ex-girlfriend. She worked at a sex store that also had a large video rental section. There used to be this Asian guy who would show up, pick up movies, bring to counter, and then in broken English would ask the staff what the words were. Turned out he spoke perfect English and just got off on the girls saying dirty words.